Now it works? Okay, good. So, um, now I'll be quick. Yeah, so it's hard to follow a good presentation from the Tor project, but I actually mentioned them, so it's good. I want to talk about how autonomy is a really important part, and that people need autonomy and privacy. So, but this talk is a little bit longer, so I'll skip some slides and talk about what I think is important for today, so I can keep this talk a little bit shorter. So I think we all are here, to some degree, we agree that privacy is the missing native feature in Web3. This is fundamental. We cannot give people the freedom and the rights that we have promised them in Web3 without actually having privacy being native and fundamentally embedded into our systems. So the vision that we have of this, peer-to-peer value layer, this ability for people to exchange value, to control their identity, their data, all of this is, all empowered by having privacy built into the systems. And at the moment, it seems like many of our systems that we've built in Web3 were just going ahead and saying, okay, we're going to add the privacy features later, but these need to be embedded from the beginning. And autonomy without privacy is an illusion. So we make users think that they have freedom in these systems, but if they're not able to actually control their data and make active choices about what they're doing with their data and their activities within the systems, then they aren't actually autonomous. So I think that one of the things that's important or helpful within the Web3 space is to look at internet freedom and that community. It's been mentioned already, and I consider Tor as part of the internet freedom community. And I think that there's a lot that Web3 can actually learn and leverage to use from the internet freedom space, which has been around for a while, and building amazing tools like Tor that can be leveraged to build privacy within our infrastructure and to provide the security that is needed to enable privacy in the infrastructure of Web3. So here are some examples. There's some examples here about the strengths that internet freedom has had within the community in the building there, and the Web3 need that they can meet. And so designing for autonomy is something that's also important to think about, which is this human-centered design. So, of course, it matters what the users, want to select, their user workflow, the workflows that they're going through, and all that stuff needs to be easy. We want good interfaces, but we also need to give them the choice about what they're doing within the system and their privacy. And they need to understand that if I make this selection, it will have this result. And sometimes that can be something that we give them, detailed information about, and other times it can be just how we make it by default. And so that they're safe by default and open by choice. This idea that I have control over what I want to share all the time. And so here's some tips about how that can be done. You want to reduce the cognitive load by making the defaults correct for people. You want to have this granular consent, maybe have dashboards that tell people, detailed, like if you choose this, this will happen, this will be shared, etc. And then distinct flows for high-level users under duress. So this is where I think the internet freedom space can be leveraged. Also, is that often the internet freedom tools are being built for people who are in, really sensitive situations. Maybe their lives are at risk because they've got data that is not wanted to be open or shared by other parties. They're clearly targets often. And so if we can create workflows and tools that suit those high risk use cases, then we can meet everybody else's need. So if we start from that point, then we know that we're giving privacy to everyone as a result. And then this idea of local first apps and empowering the user to control their actual endpoints. So, allowing them to do more on their devices that they have control over. And then also in-app safety cues to increase the retention. So as they're actually making these choices, give them some cues. A good example of a subtle cue that helps people make a decision is something that we overlook every day, but we're used to now, which is like HTTPS. There's a little green lock versus the red that's open, and that because it's this really subtle cue that is in a user interface that helps people to understand the security status of the website that they're looking at. And user testing. So here is a good list of some tools out there that exist that are well used. that have great interfaces already that can be leveraged for secure infrastructure that also provides the ability for people to have a different level of privacy. And so this is something that I would like to see Web3 tools utilize in some form. And they're all open source, of course. So yeah. I'll leave that up for one more second for those of you taking the photos. Because, yeah, I wanted to also, I put the purpose there so you guys know that these tools, and this is just, 6 of them, and there's, I don't know, at least 25 good tools out there, if not many, many more that haven't gotten, a lot of attention yet, but there's clear Web3 use cases. And so, I don't know how much advanced cryptography has been spoken about, but there is a modern cryptography toolkit that is available. These are some examples of advanced cryptography that can be utilized to provide security and for tools, and then therefore enable privacy. I'll skip the case studies due to time, but we have a lot of those. Yeah, so I just wanted to let people know to take advantage of this 30 plus years of internet freedom R&D that exists out there. There's code, there's good user research. That's another thing I should mention, is that they've done lots of user studies about what people want and what they need, and all of those are published, especially if they were funded by grants that were public funds. And so there's user research out there that allows you to better understand how users want to work with tools and what they need. Yeah, and I think that there's also a good call to action around funding too. The internet freedom space has its own set of funding, and then we've got Web3 projects getting funded, and I think that they can, be better off together. And I'll just, you all know about the cypherpunks, and you probably hear about them too much, but I don't know how many people have taken time to read the manifesto, and it's not, perfect for every word, but I think this is an important point on this one, which is that for privacy to be widespread, it must be part of a social contract. People must come together to deploy these systems for the common good. Privacy only extends so far as cooperation of one's fellows in society. And I think it's we spend a lot of time thinking about our individual right to privacy, but collectively we need to be cooperating in order to enable privacy. For example, Signal. If you're the only person using Signal, do you really have secure communications? No. You need all your friends and your family to be using Signal too. And same thing goes for tools like Tor. In order for there to be anonymity for the full pool of users, anonymity loves company. It needs lots of people using it in order to be strong enough. And so, again, think of also how I find it very helpful to think about how, privacy is just not for me, that it's for all of society to depend on, and that even the digital disobedience from the speaker before me, this concept that we cannot have any kind of, alternative thoughts or disobedience in our society if we don't have tools that support our autonomy to speak and to do as we want with privacy. So that's it. Security and privacy for all. Thank you.